Welcome back, Tribe. Today's episode is going to be about getting over breakups or that specific person that's just living rent free in your head. You know that feeling when a song comes on and suddenly you're right back there, eh? Maybe it's the Drake track that was playing the first time you saw her smile. Aw. Or the stupid Netflix show you used to binge together. Yeah, you can't even look at that one anymore, can you? Every little thing becomes a landmine of memory, doesn't it? And your brain keeps running the highlight reel of everything you lost. That's what this episode is going to be about. Because some guys are struggling to get over their exes. And yes, the shit is kind of rough, dude. I understand. Been there too. Anyone who tells you to just get over it or plenty of fish in the sea clearly doesn't understand how deep some of this shit goes for everyone. Because letting go isn't just about deleting their number or unfollowing them on Instagram. You have to untangle every part of them from your life that they woven themselves into. That's the brutal truth. And then most guys, they'll try to handle this the way we handle everything else, right? Lock it down, push it away, distract ourselves with work or the gym or whatever's going to numb it for a minute. And then we'll get angry because, well, anger feels better than hurt. And then you'll try to hate this person because hate is stronger than love. And then we'll act like we don't care because caring feels like weakness. And somehow, months or even years later, we'll still be carrying that weight around. You've seen guys like this, that they've broken up with somebody years ago, bro, that they never get over it. Guys are very slow when it comes to getting over their exes. And carrying all that negative energy is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're not hurting them by staying bitter. You're just keeping yourself stuck. It's like trying to unlock a door by punching it. The harder you fight against the pain, the tighter it'll grip you. And the real mindfuck is that the path to letting go is actually the opposite of what most of us try to do. Think about how you feel when you're holding a rope really tight. Your knuckles are white, the muscles are tense, and it's actually painful to maintain that tight grip. That's what holding on to resentment feels like. Now imagine slowly relaxing your grip, feeling the tension release from your fingers one by one. That's what real letting go feels like as well. This isn't a weakness shit either. It actually takes more strength to stay soft in a world that keeps telling you to get hard. Any dude can build walls. It takes real balls to stay open after you've been hurt. No homo. You're probably thinking this sounds like some hippie meditation bullshit, and it might come off that way, but even the hardest warriors understood this. The samurai talked about balance of hard and soft. Also no homo. The strongest fighters know that tension breaks while flexibility bends. Being rigid is actually being fragile. And the truth about letting go is that it's not about forgetting, it's about remembering it differently. Instead of drowning in what was lost, you start seeing what was learned. When you start shifting your focus from what they did to you to what that experience taught you, something weird starts to actually happen. Those memories that used to feel like punches to the gut start feeling more like old scars. They're still there, but they don't hurt the same way. You start seeing how that relationship, even with all its pain, shaped you in something much stronger. And nobody warns you about the waves. Some days you're cruising along feeling like you got, shit handled. Then bam, you catch a whiff of their perfume on a stranger or scroll past an old photo you forgot to delete and it hits you like a truck. Your chest starts to get tight, stomach drops. Suddenly, you're right back in the moment when everything fell apart. And those waves, they're actually normal. Fighting them is like trying to hold back the tide. Exhausting and pointless. The trick is to avoid them, but to learn how to surf them. When those memories come flooding back, don't try to push them away. Don't grab your phone to text them. Don't jump on social media to see what they're doing. Just sit with it for a minute. Think of it like watching a movie you've seen before. You know how it ends, but this time you're not the actor in it. You're the audience. You can see things you missed before. Red flags you ignored, patterns you were too close to notice, ways you abandoned yourself trying to keep them. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's just understanding your own story better. And most dudes stay stuck because they're waiting for closure from someone else. Waiting for the apology or an explanation, some magic combination of words that's going to make everything make sense. But closure isn't something you get from someone else. It's something you give yourself. And the hardest part is accepting that someone can be grateful for and still need to walk away from. That someone can teach you important lessons and still not be meant to stay in your life. That love and wrong for you can exist in the same person. The human heart isn't built for that kind of paradox, but growing up means learning to hold these contradictions. You got to understand every relationship serves a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is lifelong partnership, and that's great. But sometimes it's a lesson in boundaries. Sometimes it's showing you what you don't want. And sometimes it's breaking you open so you can rebuild stronger. None of these purposes is less valuable than the other. Although it'd be nice to hit on the first one in the first go. When you start seeing it this way, something shifts. The person stops being the one who ruined everything and becomes a teacher who showed you something about yourself. Maybe they taught you how to stand up for yourself, or maybe they showed you what real love isn't supposed to feel like. Maybe they pushed you to face parts of yourself that you were avoiding. That empty space they left behind, it's not just absence, it's possibility. It's a room for something better. But you can't fill it with something new if you're still clutching on what's gone. You can't receive with closed fists, guys. And time doesn't heal shit by itself. Guys walk around carrying decade-old wounds thinking they're over it just because they stopped talking about it. Like that dude still bitter about his high school girlfriend while he's dropping his kids off at soccer practice. Or the guy who can't trust anyone because of what happened in his last relationship 5 years ago. Time without intentional healing is just aging wine that was already spoiled. You want to know what actually heals? Breaking down that highlight reel your brain keeps playing and seeing it for what it really was. It's not perfect, not terrible, just human. Most guys get stuck in this loop trying to rationalize everything, making lists of the ways that they were wronged, replaying conversations with different endings, looking for that one moment where it all went wrong. Your logical brain is trying to solve an emotional problem. It's like trying to fix a car's engine by washing the windows. Makes no sense. In social media, that shit's like poking a bruise to see if it still hurts. Of course it still hurts. You keep poking it, watching their stories, checking their likes, trying to piece together their life from photos and posts. You're not gathering intelligence, bro. You're prolonging your own suffering. That urge to check their social media isn't love or connection. It's your wound looking for more reasons to stay wounded. The digital age made getting over someone 10 times harder because of that. Back in the day, you could at least physically distance yourself. Now you're always one click away. Their whole life is on display, or at least a version they want you to see. And every notification, every update, every new post is like a little hook that pulls you back in. The reality is most relationships don't end because someone's evil. They end because of incompatibility, poor timing, unmet needs, different values, or people changing in different directions. Understanding this doesn't make the pain go away, but it makes it clear somehow. Less infected with blame and shame. And the goal isn't to forget them or to pretend that they never mattered. The goal is to get to a place where thinking about them doesn't derail your whole day, where you can acknowledge what you had without needing to have it back, where you can wish them well without needing to know if they're actually doing well. No feelings whatsoever. And what's wild about letting go is that this shit happens in layers. It's like peeling an onion, except each layer teaches you something new about yourself. You know, the first layer might be something like deleting their phone number. Next layer could be packing away their stuff. Then comes the harder layers, letting go of the future you plan together, the identity you built around them, the comfort of having someone, even when that someone wasn't right for you. And some of those layers hurt more than others. Sometimes you think you're done only to find another layer hiding underneath. That's normal. You're not moving backwards just because you found more to process. Each layer you peel back is progress, even when it doesn't feel like it. And the toughest layer, it's letting go of being the victim in your own story. Releasing that comfortable narrative about how they did you wrong. Because once you let that go, you might have to face your own part in everything. You have to look at your choices, your patterns, and your blind spots. That's when real growth starts happening. How could you let it get to that point? How could they take advantage of me? How did I not see these red flags? Then you begin to understand why everything happened. And that growth is uncomfortable as fuck. It's supposed to be. Think about building muscle. It literally requires breaking down tissue so you can build it stronger. Mental and emotional growth works the same way. That discomfort you're feeling, that's your comfort zone breaking down so your life can rebuild bigger. When you start genuinely letting go, weird shit will start to happen. You'll notice patterns in others in your relationships. You see how your parents' relationship influenced your expectations. You recognize behaviors you've been repeating without even realizing it. It's like someone turned on a light in a room you've been living in the dark. And suddenly you're not just getting over someone, you're evolving past who you were when you were with them. The pain becomes a catalyst instead of a prison, and you start to make different choices. You start to set boundaries, wanting different things. The relationship stops being just a loss and becomes a turning point. Because you see, that person who hurt you, they might have been the earthquake that shook your world apart, but you get to be the architect who decides how to rebuild it. You get to look at the rubble and choose what to keep and what to leave behind. What beliefs serve you, what patterns need to change, what boundaries need to be stronger. This is where most guys fuck up. They try to skip straight to rebuilding without clearing the debris first. They jump into new relationships carrying that old baggage, and then they make the same choices with different people and wonder why the ending feels so familiar every single time. Take the time to sort through your shit properly. Figure out what's yours to work on and what isn't. Real freedom comes when you can look at your past without getting stuck there. When you can acknowledge the pain without needing to relive it. When you can see the person and feel nothing. No rage, no longing, no regret. Just another chapter in the story that helped make you who you are today. And some days it's easier than others. Some triggers hit harder than others, but each time you choose to release instead of cling, to grow instead of blame, you get closer to being the person you're meant to become. Eventually, you'll realize that letting go wasn't about them at all. It was about you, about learning to love yourself enough to stop accepting less than you deserve, about trusting yourself enough to walk away from what's familiar but toxic, and respecting yourself enough to make peace with your past without letting it dictate your future. All that energy spent on holding on the past, that becomes fuel for building your future. All those lessons you learned the hard way, they become wisdom that guides your choices. And all that love you were pouring into a broken connection, it becomes the foundation of something stronger, starting with how you love yourself. That's the real power of letting go with love. Not because they deserve your compassion, but because you deserve your peace. And that's the point I want to make to you guys today about moving on from past relationships. And it's very hard to see straight, especially when you're in the moment, feeling all the height of the emotions and the sunk cost fallacy. And you start to do the blame game of how you could fix this. Was it my fault? What could I have done better? Just stop, take a second, breathe, and understand that she might have her role in this, but you also have your role in this. And if you really want to fix this for the next relationship, you're going to have to look in both directions. The most powerful learning lessons come from within. Always remember that, boys. And if you appreciated today's episode, hit the comments. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you haven't. And join us on some of the private calls in the community. We like those as well. And as usual, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Oh, share some of your breakup experiences and what helped you get over them. That'll be good for guys to read. Take care.